Hey everyone, welcome to Squealing Tires on DFSCheatSheet.com. My name is Tyler Miller. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to us here and subscribing to DFSCheatSheet.com, where you can check out all of our content. My NASCAR content posted every week for the NASCAR Cup Series races. We have the setup, which is a statistical preview, comes out each week around the middle of the week, Wednesday or Thursday. And then Victory Lane comes your way over the weekend after practice and qualifying has concluded, as that's where we're at with the FanShield 500 Phoenix International Raceway. One of my favorite racetracks on the circuit. This is a short race, 312 laps, 312 miles. It's 500 kilometers, which is where they get the name for the race. Just a couple of stages, 75 laps, the end of stage one. Stage two ends on lap 190. Lineup locked for everybody, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. So let's get started and dig right into it. There's a lot of decisions to be made with the FanShield 500. Chase Elliott on the pole, Kevin Harvick starting outside on the front row. Might actually be inside on the front row depending on what Chase Elliott chooses. Seemed like the outside lane worked better in the Xfinity race on Saturday. But there's a lot to go through here, so we'll just kind of take it piece by piece, and we'll start at the top. There's two guys that I think have very equal cars. They're both in Fords for the best cars in the race. I think Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick are right neck and neck. You know, they're right there, right? So you have Kevin Harvick starting second. You have Brad Keselowski starting this race in the 14th position. So right there, you know, you have a little bit less risk with Keselowski. You know, if he finishes top five and Harvick wins, Keselowski could still score more points, especially on FanDuel, where you don't get as many points for laps led. In fact, there's no fastest laps run. Plus the full point differential for moving up from 14th position. Kevin Harvick is a good play. Starting second, you just really need him to finish in the top three and lead a lot of laps to make up for no differential points, because there's really nothing possible. And then if he has an issue, say Harvick just has a bad pit stop and finishes the race 10th, then you could be in trouble if he isn't the highest owned high-end guy. And then you have to look at, you know, recent history. Kyle Busch, you know, he's won 2 of his last 3 races at Phoenix. He's finished in the top 4 in 8 of his last 9. He's starting 10th on Sunday. You know, he didn't run great speeds in practice. He was in the 10th to 15th, 13th, somewhere in there over his consecutive laps run. But you just got to think Kyle Busch. Plus, you have the Xfinity race on Saturday. This is a brand new tire for Phoenix, and Cup and Xfinity are both running the same tires. Never been run before. Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski have experience because of running the Xfinity race on Saturday. I just think he's going to work his way to the front. He's not going to be the fastest car right away. He might linger in the back half of the top 10 at the beginning of the race, but I've seen this story too many times, especially at Phoenix. Kyle Busch, very good here. I like him a lot starting from the 10th position, even though he's the most expensive driver on both FanDuel and Draftkings. Another good play, and there's going to be a lot of these, right? So everybody's going to look at this. They'll look at the ego sheet, right? The practice list from final practice, and they'll say Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick, those are the best 2 cars. We got to figure out, you know, Kyle Busch, we got to play 2 of those 3, maybe all 3 of them. Don't overlook Joey Logano. Logano in this race, his practice speeds were just off of Keselowski and Harvick. I mean, a couple hundredths of a second behind them. And he's starting the race just in front of Keselowski. I believe we have Joey Logano. Let me just double check this real quick because I don't want to mislead you. Joey Logano will be starting the race 13th. Yeah, 1 spot in front of Brad Keselowski. I like Logano. I mean, he's cheaper than Keselowski, cheaper than Harvick, cheaper than Kyle Busch. He's more expensive than Keselowski on DraftKings, but cheaper on FanDuel. You know, I think that's kind of sneaky. I think really you can fit 3 of these top 4 guys in a FanDuel lineup. You can probably only fit 2 of them in DraftKings, depending on how deep you're willing to go down the value chute. But I like that. I like using 3 of these 4 on FanDuel for sure. My favorite plays are Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch, but I like mixing in Joey Logano there as well. And Kevin Harvick, is not going to be a bad play. He could easily lead the most laps and win the race, but it's a little bit risky starting second. There was other cars who were just as fast as him during practice on Friday. You look in the mid-tier, I like Jimmy Johnson right at 10K, starting 21st. Don't overlook that. I don't know if he has a top 10 car, but I know he has a better car than a 21st place car. I think you look at Johnson finishing this race 8th to 12th, maybe, somewhere in there. If he does that, it's going to be a really good play. Just depends on how you're going to build your lineup. Do you want to be mid-tier heavy? I think on DraftKings you kind of have to be, and that's where I really like Jimmy Johnson. On FanDuel, I don't know if you can make that work because of where we're going to look at for value being just a little bit cheaper in price. The other mid-tier play I really like is William Byron. Byron showed top speeds in practice. I mean, he was running 6th to 8th place in 5 to 20 consecutive lap runs in final practice. He's starting this race 17th. I always look for that. Where can we get a top 10 finish from a driver on FanDuel priced under 10K? I think William Byron is that guy for this week. And then when we look at value plays, I really like Tyler Reddick. We'll talk a little bit about this. It's going to be along the same lines as everybody's going to look at Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Brad Keselowski. Do you slide Joey Logano in there and say, hey, don't overlook this guy, I can play him instead? Everybody's going to look at Austin Dillon starting 30th because he's starting so far back. But I think Tyler Reddick's a better play. Tyler Reddick, $900 cheaper on FanDuel. Let me do the math real quick. He's $600 cheaper on DraftKings. Reddick starting 29th, Austin Dillon starting 30th. You could play them both, especially on DraftKings. I think you might have to play them both. But on FanDuel, Reddick is my guy, I think, this weekend. He showed top 15 to top 20 speeds in practice. I think he can finish in the top 20. I wouldn't be surprised if he finished in the top 15 on Sunday. That's a lot of points for a driver that's 6,700. You look further down the list, everybody looks at I think a lot of people will play Tyler Reddick. I think a lot of people will play Austin Dillon. Don't overlook the brother, right? Ty Dillon, very similar equipment. Germain Racing gets their cars from RCR. He's starting 25th. And if you look at recent finishes, Ty Dillon has been in the top 20 at Phoenix in each of his last 3 races. He actually has a better average finish at Phoenix than Austin Dillon. And another stat that I like to look at here with Ty Dillon is when you look at average running position, Ty Dillon's average finish is 2 spots better than his average running position, right? So his average running position for the race, 21.86. But his average finish is 19.1. That tells me that he's able to close this race out, finish better than he was running. And you compare that to Austin, where his average running position is 18th and his average finish is 20.6. It's a hard play there, and it's a hard decision to make because of the 5 spots between the two, with Austin starting 30th, Ty starting 25th. It might be a little bit of a stretch to think that Ty can outpoint Austin, but Ty's quite a bit cheaper, $5,500 compared to $7,600 for Austin Dillon. So when you're looking at value, I really like Tyler Reddick. Overall, I think he might be a must play. And then I like Ty Dillon as like a sneaky, don't forget about him at the bottom end. So that's kind of where I'm at. When you look at lineup construction, man, I'm torn. I'm torn on FanDuel because I think you can fit Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, and Kevin Harvick. Or you could swap in Joey Logano there. You could play all 3 of them. I mean, you can look at Byron and Johnson and then go with Austin Dillon. You can look at, Harvick or Logano and then just take a value play, maybe play Ty Dillon there. So, you look at Busch, Keselowski, Reddick as your core, right? You look at those 3 drivers, that's your must play. And then you can go with William Byron or Jimmy Johnson, and then maybe play Austin Dillon or Ty Dillon, or you could play Harvick or Logano and then go with Ty Dillon. I don't like going any lower than Ty Dillon. If you're playing the quick pick on FanDuel and you need the field or the bottom category, whichever one they call it, maybe you go with Bubba Wallace starting 27th, but I'm not real in on that. And then when you look at a DraftKings lineup build, I think you need to be more mid-tier heavy. I think that's where you go with Jimmy Johnson. You might go with both Dillon brothers and Reddick. You can look at William Byron there. You probably have to limit yourself to 2 top-end drivers. It's a little bit easier if you don't play Kyle Busch because he's so expensive. You could play Keselowski and Harvick, or Keselowski and Logano, or Harvick and Logano. You just got to kind of look at it and say, where do I like to go here? I will say, man, it's hard. We kind of had our day ruined by playing Logano over Denny Hamlin last week at Auto Club. So I'm a little bit gun shy on going back to Penske, but their cars have been good. I mean, Ryan Blaney's been good. Brad Keselowski is just clearly one of the best cars, top 2 best car during practice on Friday, along with Kevin Harvick. So there's a lot to like there. And that's kind of where I'm at. That's what I'm looking at for this weekend. If you have any questions, you can hit me up on Discord. I'll have Discord up and running at least the last hour before lineup lock on Sunday afternoon. So good luck to everybody. Hope you do well, and we will talk to you next week.